Hi, I'm Heather Lloyd.
Hi, I'm Kendall Taggart.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Kelly.
And you're listening to the Realtio Podcast, a show where we talk to leading women in real estate throughout the GTA. All right, should we get started?
Yeah.
How are you guys?
Good.
Are you warm enough? Everyone's
Yeah,
got their sweaters
I have I needed to be so cozy. It's so cold out.
So cold out.
Yeah.
Isn't it like minus 30 today or something?
It's ridiculous.
Outrageous.
Like I feel like I've been sleeping with like 2 blankets on, and it's not enough.
Full custom tracksuit. Your holiday tracksuit.
My holiday tracksuit has made
Is John also in his tracksuit?
No, unfortunately, his
Rejected.
didn't fit.
Yeah.
So update on the tracksuits, it didn't fit.
Okay.
So
That's all right.
that's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's not his fault. It's not that he's big or anything like
No,
that. It's
not
just the
his fault.
sizing on Amazon.
Can be
It's not
tricky.
true to size.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's
So-
fair. Yeah. We're noticing these nails
Oh,
of yours.
my
Kendall.
nails. Yeah. So these are my K-pop Demon Hunter nails
I
right now.
made them.
And I don't know if you know what? I do actually like them. I don't think I can pull them off, but my daughter loves them.
Well, I disagree
So
with you. I
they're-
100% think you can pull them off.
If you can't see them on the camera, they're purple and very, very sparkly.
I don't think they're very, very sparkly. I feel like they're, I mean, when you do that, but like, I didn't ever notice the sparkle until you pointed it out. I just,
So now are you?
I just actually
I keep
feel like,
saying, I'm like, do you think they're too much? And they're like,
I don't think
they're fine. They're fine. What are you talking about? And now she has that look like, wow.
I see it.
Well, if I'm being honest, I don't think you can ever have too much sparkle. Personally,
go.
I used to do over the holidays, I had full glitter hands.
gonna-
I love them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. I feel like it's, I
you.
think it's a personal choice. It's like,
All right.
I, for one, I'm not big on the sparkle, but I support people who love sparkle.
I
So-
do like them. Like, I didn't think. Anyways,
I just
don't
feel like
love
we've talked a
these.
lot about them.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure.
I'm just trying to
Do
see
you
if
love them, or are you trying to convince yourself that you love them? Whatever. They're just
They
nails.
won't
They're
be.
just fun.
They're not gonna be my next choice.
Right.
For sure.
That's fair. But you got to try this stuff out. You
Yeah.
got to dabble.
It
So
did
what-
make me feel like
What are you going to do next? Like, what's
It's a mystery. Stay tuned.
I did see. Yeah, I did see one girl with yellow, and I can definitely not pull it. Like
No.
beautiful fluorescent. Yeah, it was so cool.
I wouldn't. I could
But
do
she
yellow
was
as
so
well.
classy. Like
Was she
had,
tanned?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. I'm probably just gonna go back to my very light pink.
That does always look nice.
I mean, that also looks great.
Yeah. You do you, man.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. Should we get started? Should we talk about our guest today?
Yeah, I'm excited to see her nails.
What type of nails does she have?
We didn't
Ready?
check her nails, I don't think.
I don't think we did. Well, our guest today is Elizabeth Lun from Brattys. So I think we've said it a few times. We've been asking or thinking about having her on the show for a while. So very excited to chat with her. I feel like what I like about Elizabeth is she just tells you like it is kind of thing. Like
For sure.
I harken back to we've gone out for dinner with her and she's going to order what we're all going to have. And I actually love that. I love
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't like making decisions.
Me
No.
neither.
Nope.
And she just makes that decision and you're done. It's awesome. I
Yeah.
love it. So yeah, really looking forward to chatting with her today.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, let's get started. All right. So we are here with Elizabeth Lun from Brattys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I was saying, I think that you've been on our list of guests to have on the show since we started thinking about this show. So you finally made it here. So we're very excited that you're able to join us. Before we get started, I'm just going to read a little bio so that everybody knows just a little bit more about you if they don't already know you. So your academic roots are at the University of Toronto and in Windsor Law. And since then, you have rapidly grown to become a partner at Brattys LLP. You have evolved into a bit of a go-to expert in your field of real estate law and a mentor to everybody who's working with you. Over the last 9 years, you've dealt with the residential, commercial, and mixed-use acquisitions, as well as complex financing, and of course, the intricate world of condominium sales and development. In addition, you champion and co-lead Brattys' student recruitment program and are passionate about providing a path for future talent in the technical world of real estate. I'm really excited to talk about this recruitment program that you've got. I guess it's articling. It's the articling
Yes.
program that you put together for students, but within the Brattys world, I guess. So yeah, well, I mean, we're going to get to that. But before we do, let's get into our first question. let's go back and figure out what it was and kind of where your world kind of led you into law and why you chose to go into that field, and then maybe a little bit more for everybody about what you currently do in your current role at Brattys.
Yeah, I mean, I think my pathway into law was pretty straightforward. Mm-hmm. I would say that my family obviously placed a heavy focus on academics, so it just kind of naturally lent itself to pursuing something post-undergrad, whether that be, law or medicine or something of that sort. So I'm not great at science, and I decided law is probably the right way to go between the two. So that's kind of how I ended up there, and I did my law schooling at Windsor, like you said before. And right now I focus a lot in land development, mostly on the condominium side for the past years that I've been there, but also doing, commercial acquisitions, mixed-use development acquisitions, land development applications, anything of that sort, really. So I'm lucky to be in a place where I get to do all of that stuff, which has really helped, obviously, fill in all the gaps when it comes to what does real estate look like, because I feel like a lot of people have their thoughts about real estate lawyers. Maybe they just do residential, maybe they just do commercial.
Right.
And I've been fortunate that I haven't been siloed in that way. I really have gotten to touch everything that I've wanted to, whether that be on the financing side or the development side, or even just, purchases, sales, all of the run-of-the-mill stuff that you would otherwise typically see. But I'm lucky to be in a place where I get to do all of that.
It's like, it seems like it offers like a lot of diversity, which you're right. I don't know that everybody really thinks about that all the time. I have two questions actually about what you just, one is, how was it living in Windsor? And two was, what is your favorite? Do you have a favorite? Like, I know you probably do one area of law predominantly, but is there an area where you're like, that's actually kind of a part that I really love more?
So I'll tackle the Windsor question first. I absolutely loved it.
Did you? Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Windsor kind of gets a reputation of being a smaller school,
right,
and, might not have the esteem that U of T or Osgoode or, all those other schools might have. But I really, really enjoyed my time there. And I think it was very helpful to be there because it was a smaller community.
Right.
And it wasn't what you would typically call a commuter school.
Right.
So the sense of environment and the sense of collegiality and just having that community there, I think, was a really big part of my experience and was really, really helpful, especially when you're all going through the same thing together for the first time. You're all kind of starting your professional career, mm-hmm, and everyone is going through the same thing, and there's a lot of changes that happen very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And it was nice to have that very strong sense of community like I did at Windsor, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
The reason I asked was more, I have this feeling or stereotype in my head that Windsor is really cold, and so I was just like thinking about like this environment that we're currently in.
Yeah, it got very humid at the beginning of September.
So I know nothing about Windsor. I apologize.
That was my recollection of it. I just remember it getting really humid at the beginning of the year whenever I went back to school, but right, I would need to drive through London, which did get a lot of snow.
Yeah.
Did you grow up in Toronto?
No, I grew up in Mississauga.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I am now a Toronto resident, though.
Nice.
Etobicoke, but it still counts.
Yeah.
Legally,
people
it still
who live
counts.
in Etobicoke love Etobicoke, I think.
I do.
Yeah, I feel like
great.
it's a trend. Anybody I know who lives there is like very loyal to Etobicoke, has nothing but the best things to say about it.
Yeah.
So it must be pretty great.
I grew up in Etobicoke. I love it.
Yeah, well,
It's
very
got
close
its
to you.
pockets. It's got its pockets, I will say.
Yeah,
There are certain
definitely.
parts of it that I'm like, oh, I wouldn't think this is Etobicoke. And then there are other parts I'm like, this is gorgeous.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, and then part two of my question, which part, you mentioned a few different segments of law that you tackle. Is there an area that you like better than another, or maybe not even like, but it's like, this is refreshing and fun to work on, or different kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that would be, for me, condominium development.
Okay.
It is not something that every real estate firm or every firm that practices in real estate gets to touch. They might get little pieces of it here and there, but because our practice was so entrenched in condominium development, I really get to see all of it. And, maybe it was just all of the exposure that I got to it. But I think there is a very real and tangible end product, especially when it comes to condominiums. Like, we do low rise, we do the regular subdivisions that you would think,
Mm-hmm.
when you're thinking regular house, plot of land. But with condominiums, it's, you see the construction cranes over the city.
Right.
You can tell when, the roof is being put on.
Right.
And you can tell that it's a real change to the neighborhood. And that is just something that I never appreciated prior to practicing. It is something that, now when I look out my office window, I can see the changes that have happened in Vaughan in the past, 10 years. I can see that the skyline is very different. I know which projects I've worked on. I know which towers I've worked on.
Yeah.
And I think it really helps when I can see that end product there, as opposed to something that is just on paper.
Yeah.
And the condominium aspect of it as well is it's different. It's not just like, here's a closing and here's just put the mortgage on. It's all of those things combined, right? So I could be involved from the very outset of our client reaching out and saying, I want to buy this piece of land. Okay, well, how do we go about that? And then to financing it, whether it's, the pre-development loan. And then that becomes your construction financing. And then I have the surety piece of it. And this all sounds like legal jargon, but it's just, there are so many things that go into developing a condominium that the life cycle of it is something that I think really makes you appreciate the end product that much more.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the environment is also changing a lot, particularly when it comes to condos. And I'm sure we're going to touch on that later. But it's something that's always constantly evolving as well. So I think, in ways it's never the same thing. Even if I'm saying I'm putting up a condominium, there are different quirks on the site. I'm dealing with different problems. I'm dealing with, is there a heritage component here? Is there some pre-existing condition that I'd have to think about? What are they doing on the environmental side? So there are always new and exciting things. And you're always learning from it. Every project is different. So I definitely think condominiums for me would be, I guess, the top in terms of all the things that I touch.
So you love condominium law, but did you always want to get into like real estate law, or was there what drew you into it?
I did not know that I always wanted to do real estate. I always knew what I didn't want to do. So I knew that I didn't want to do criminal. I knew that I didn't want to be a litigator. I knew I didn't want to touch family law. And there's no good reason for me knowing or not knowing that when you're in school, just because the exposure you have is limited to what you learn. I just got lucky that when I was going for interviews, I got a lot of interest from real estate predominant firms. So I landed at Brattys, obviously, which very, very real estate focused. And lucky that they do a lot of condominium work. So I kind of just stumbled into it. It wasn't something that I particularly was like, I want to do real estate and I want to focus on condominiums. It wasn't like that. It was more of a natural, organic kind of falling into that.
Well, and it's really it's no surprise to anybody that the market's really shifted over the last few years. How are you finding that law firms are adjusting or pivoting to the new market conditions?
I think that my firm is quite lucky that our clients are well positioned and they have enough experience that they've either weathered something like this before in the early 90s, let's say, or they had forecasted it and knew it was going to come. So a lot of them, they may have plans to say, okay, well, on this site, instead of doing a condominium, I will pivot to rental. Or maybe I'll just hold this product because I can. Mm-hmm. So I'm fortunate in that the clients that my firm has, they have that expertise and they're able to have the foresight to see what they have to do when the market turns. I think for other firms, that are doing, let's say you focus predominantly in transactions, I think what they'll see is they'll see a lot more mortgage enforcement, and they'll see a lot more of purchasers who are trying to close deals. They can't necessarily close them, maybe more private lending. Really, I would think you would have to look on it on a case-by-case basis to see what you would actually need to do. But there are also, I guess, gaps right now in the market where, okay, you have the benefit of time because you're not actively trying to put up a building. You're not putting shovels in the ground, let's say. Maybe that's the time that you look at another site and you say, okay, well, maybe I get this site plan approved now. Maybe I work through the city process because we all know that takes a lot of time, right? And sometimes it takes more time than you'd like it to. And now with the gap in the market, maybe you have that benefit of being a little more flexible, or maybe, rejigging your plans, looking at, instead of doing 80 townhomes, maybe we do bigger units because now I know that there is a demand if buyers are buying, a lot of them happen to be end users, and end users who either want to move from their current homes into a space where, it's kind of condominium life. They don't need to worry about mowing the lawn or snow shoveling. They want bigger units. They want to be able to raise families in those units. They want to be able to entertain in those spaces. So there's a shift on that side, I guess, with the purchaser. But as other firms go about it, going back to your original question, I think it's just trying to find those opportunities and trying to find other work that is happening right now in the real estate space, because it's never just quiet. There is other work going on.
Yeah.
But it just might not be actually putting a shovel in the ground. It might not be, okay, I need to get my forming, or, you're just kind of looking at what opportunities are there in the market right now. And I think you're maybe a smaller scale, obviously, but there's always something happening.
So I was going to say, you guys it sounds like you're still busy. Things haven't slowed down for you.
Yeah, we are. And again, better to be busy than not, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of clients, different life cycles of different projects, right? So again, maybe negotiating certain stuff with the city right now, maybe using this time to look at, okay, what does our pipeline look like? How do we plan on moving through the next 5 years? What will the market look like in 5 years? When it takes off again, what are people going to want to buy?
Right.
Is it going to take off exponentially? Will it be a little bit of a slower return to the market with people getting comfortable, putting down big deposits again? So trying to work through those questions right now, I think, is really important. And I know that a lot of our clients, and I'm sure other developers out there, are going through the same exercise.
And I feel like you must be super busy. I feel like with this market, it's busier to close units than it ever has been before. So what has changed, like with the closing process? Do you see a difference between closing condominiums now and closing them before, and how are you kind of navigating those?
You hit the nail right on the head when you said it's a longer closing process. We're working a lot harder to get a lot less units closed.
Yeah.
There is a lot more negotiation, and there is a very active shift in terms of how people or their mindset on these deals, right? Because purchasers, at no fault of their own, probably didn't appreciate at the outset when they maybe first signed the agreement. They may not have appreciated all of the legal ramifications that came with it. Or maybe they didn't approach their lawyer, because I think the buying attitude in 2021, 2022, 2020, even till end of it, was very different. People were fighting at the sales center. People, like I know my clients were saying their sales centers, they had people, putting their finger down on the map saying, this is my lot, or, this is the unit that I want to buy. I've reserved it by putting my finger on it, so that if a subsequent purchaser came in, they couldn't buy the unit.
Yeah.
So it was like everything was selling like hotcakes, and closings in that time. We were getting packages in so rapidly, and it was just pure volume. We closed so many units in such a short amount of time because the rates were low. And affordability wasn't an issue. It wasn't something that people contemplated. Now that the market has changed and affordability is a massive issue, purchasers are maybe coming back and asking for concessions. Maybe they're asking for price cuts. Maybe they're asking for much longer closings in exchange for, payment of an additional deposit. But even then, I need to break it up because I don't have all this money available to me at once. So we're doing a lot more negotiation on that side. The view is always to hopefully get the unit closed in some way, shape, or form, but all depends on what our clients are willing to accept, whether or not they need to report to their shareholders, investors, pay the bank off, not accrue extra interest. So all of that now factors into that discussion, whereas before, in better times, nobody was thinking about that. It was a sure thing that we were going to get everything closed and there was going to be no extra inventory and we could just move on to the next product.
Well, for sure. Like, I feel like lawyers, you can't underestimate taking your agreement to the lawyers between that 10 days because like I've had a number of people come up to me and say, I didn't know this, or I didn't understand, or no one told me, or I didn't know that I was supposed to read the contract fully, or should I have or I didn't know that my lawyer was supposed to look at this. So it is really, really important going forward too.
It is, and it is also like a bit of a rare thing. I mean, buying real estate is one of the more expensive things that you could ever do in your life, and oftentimes involves like most people's life savings kind of thing. But you do have those 10 days, which is not something you don't get that with a car. Like you don't get this opportunity with most purchases in your life. So
do you get that with
freehold homes?
Yeah.
Not yet.
No.
Not yet.
So you will, though.
You will.
Not yet.
What they're saying.
Okay. 2027.
It was 2026, wasn't it? And then
they
it got
pushed it out to 2027.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it will be an
resale,
opportunity.
like you would typically have conditions. So you would have
you'd have that
financing
time to.
conditions.
But remember when, I was buying a house, I was actively trying to buy a house in that inflated market, and I was getting routinely outbid by $250,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a small sum.
No.
Yeah.
And some of the houses that I looked at are nowhere near where they sold for.
Right.
And it's hard because in that market when everyone has that pressure and feels like I need to buy it now because I can afford it and everyone is buying, so I should do it. I think that was also some of the mentality, I would say, that fed into that. And with resales at that time, to your point, Kaylee, when we were putting in offers, a lot of times we were being told, well, they are not going to accept your offer if you put conditions. So I know for a fact during that time, there were a lot of offers going in unconditionally. Yeah. They were submitting firm offers off the bat.
I feel like every offer was like that, though.
Yes.
Like
that was
for
the norm.
houses, like detached housing, like you would never put in that time.
But you know what? Like that's such a scary thing to do. Like when you think about you're buying these old homes, like you want an inspection. A lot of times you won't get a mortgage approval until you have a contract in place. So it is like, it's risky, like, but it's calculated risk, if for some, I suppose, but like it is, I feel like it's such a risky thing, but it's what you had to do.
Yeah.
I was actually told with one of my offers to submit the bank draft with the offer to show how serious I was.
Yeah.
And I said, no way, because if you're getting 20 bids and the brokerage is holding my deposit, how do I know I'm getting that back right away? Right? But that was just the practice.
And I'm sure people did it. Like I'm sure that was like people who weren't thinking about it as much as you were, kind of thing.
And maybe that was their way of weeding out people who were not serious about it.
Probably.
Because I know that in that time there were also people that were putting down offers, and then it would be the highest bid and it would get accepted, and then that house would come back on the market because the buyer turned around and said, "Oh, actually, can't close on it. Sorry."
Right. Yeah.
So
when I was selling my house, I chose the person who physically gave me the deposit.
Yeah.
Like in my hand, certified.
But it's security to you, right? You know they're not going to run away. They're invested. Just like how we would need purchasers to put deposits down on condo purchases.
Yep. Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's different world now.
Different world
Yeah.
now, completely. Yeah. So different. It's almost wild to think about how crazy it was where people were putting their finger on a lot to hold it and reserve it, or this allocation of units and people just having to take what they were given kind of thing. Like it's pretty wild to think back. And it wasn't that long ago I was talking about this.
And they were buying multiple units too, remember?
And this is part of it, right? Like, I think part of we've talked about this before, like some of the issues with closing is that people are overextended. They got swept up in this, real estate game, and the fact that real estate had this, a bit of a FOMO kind of thing happening with it in certain places. So now that they're closing, and there were 31,000 closings last year, it's challenging for a lot of people. So best laid plans for a lot of people. I think it just didn't necessarily pan out. So.
Yeah. Well, and shifting gears a little bit to maybe something that you're very passionate about. So you run the internship program at Brattys. So can you tell us a little bit about that program and why you love it so much?
Yeah, so I co-lead it with one of my partners, and it was funny because I figured when I first started my career, I don't know that I'll be able to handle it. I don't ever want to be in management. I don't ever want to be a partner. I don't want to have to make any big decisions. I'll do my job and I'll get in and I'll get out. And one of the things that I was thinking about was, maybe I'll transition into, an associate that helps with the student programs. And there are firms that actually have that as one of their positions. So oftentimes it is a lawyer who is no longer actively working on files, and they've shifted all their attention to that student recruitment program. So I thought, that would be a nice little transition for me to do. Maybe I'll practice for 3-4 years, and then I'll see if I can get an opportunity that way. And I think with COVID, that obviously changed a lot. The market was very, very different, and I was working on so many things and go on all fronts. And just naturally, I guess, it worked out that all the stuff that I was doing lent itself to very exciting, very interesting work at a very interesting time in the market that I don't know that we'll see again. Mm-hmm. It was such a transformative time that I stuck with actually practicing the law. Well, I shouldn't put that in quotes. I was practicing. And I kept going, and one thing led to another, and I made partner. So I figured, this is great. But I was always somewhat involved in that program, even as an associate. And I think that my partners saw that I enjoyed doing it, and I truly do, because I think it's very important for all firms when you're trying to put together a team of lawyers. I will say for our firm, we try and hire with the intention of knowing that one day these students might become associates, they might become partners. Mm-hmm. We want to be working with them long term, because it is such an investment to have students. Mm-hmm. You're really training them from the ground up, and it is a short amount of time, and it's only a 10-month experience. But for them, that kickstarts their career, and it lays the foundation for what they're going to do in the future and how they think the law is practiced. And you're starting from day one. So I always appreciated that, and I guess I always leaned towards that direction anyway. So I just got more involved as, the partner that was previously just running it himself. He saw how involved I was, so he, kind of let me try and run with it more on my own, now to the point where I'm doing a lot of things independently, obviously still getting feedback from all the partners and still going back and co-leading it with my other partner. But it's something that I think that I've always been passionate about, particularly when it comes to who are the types of people that I want to work with. And also, I remember being that student. I remember being in that room, even though it's quite removed now, I remember how that felt. And I think it is important to have that touchstone, have that mentorship, especially in, a firm environment, because I had a lot of questions. I had to learn from the ground up. I had no real estate experience when I started articling. I learned everything that I learned at the firm. So that, to me, is immensely important, and that's why I put so much focus on that student recruitment aspect.
So maybe if anybody's listening to this today and is interested in real estate law, what is it that you looked for, or what do you look for when you're running this program in a candidate and somebody that you would be considering?
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say we like people who are self-starters, people who have initiative, people who have common sense. Yeah. And I know that sounds like very vague feedback or vague advice, but I don't think you can overstate the importance of those things, only because our practice moves so quickly. Mm-hmm. They need to be able to adapt, and they need to be able to think on their feet. No deal is ever perfect. It would be great if they were all seamless, but we're all seeing that they're not, right? So how is someone going to adapt to that? We'd like them to be sufficient in that regard, and we'd like them to be able to think ahead and anticipate any problems that might come up. And I think that being a lawyer now, especially in the real estate space, you have to kind of have a thick skin. Mm-hmm. There are arguments that happen daily. We have to be pretty firm about what our clients want, and it's not necessarily something that purchasers' lawyers want to hear.
Right.
So there's also that aspect to it of being firm, and I know that our students at the outset of it, when they first start, they're a little more meek, a little more gentle.
Right.
And once they see how the deals actually get closed and what correspondence we see on a day-to-day, they get a little more hardened because they realized, okay, well, this A moves very, very quickly, but B, not everyone is going to approach it in the same manner. So you kind of just have to stick to your guns, and you have to know what you're doing. So in terms of qualities for students, we like people who are able to also, not be afraid to make the call, not be afraid to know when they need help, but also think about the problem first,
right,
and see, okay, is this the logical next step to take? Obviously all done with supervision, but a lot of it is, at the end of the day, I want the students in our program to, at the end of the 10 months, hold themselves out as a competent lawyer, saying, I know how to do the file A to Z. I know how to do the admin of it all. I know how to do the legal side of it all. And that's important because when you're running a lean operation as well, a lot of the times you need to be able to know what the answers are, because you need to be able to give directions to your staff. You need to be able to know and identify immediately, okay, well, this is where I need triage. This can wait. This is how I prioritize things.
So with your internship program and you're mentoring these students, how has mentorship kind of helped you throughout your career?
I mean, that's a great question, because I wouldn't be where I am without mentorship. I'm at a firm where I can knock on anyone's door and I can ask any question. We call that the open door policy. So I'm never afraid to ask a question, and the environment that we have is, ask the questions you want, because you might be sharing something that I'm not aware of, or you might have stumbled upon something on a previous file that could help me out here. And I don't think that any young lawyer, or even any lawyer that's established in the career, like someone like myself, you will always be able to benefit from mentorship, right? It goes both ways. I was lucky that I juniored under a lawyer who had a lot of experience, had a lot of knowledge, had a great book of business, had a lot of clients, and brought me along and introduced me to all these people. And without having those connections, without being able to, establish those on my own as a young lawyer, I wouldn't be where I am now. So mentorship goes a long way, and that's not a statement that is solely applicable to my firm. I would think that if you asked any lawyer in the field, mentorship is always incredibly important, and it never stops.
Do you think that open door policy is unique to Brattys, or do you feel like that's a pretty common thing, like amongst firms, that there's often this ability to kind of ask the questions freely?
I think there is the ability to ask. It's just whether or not you might get the answers in a quick time. Like I'm lucky in that I can pop next door to my next door neighbor and get an answer right away. I can send out an email to all of the lawyers at my firm and say, hey, does anyone have an amendment for this? I'm encountering this. How did you deal with the delay on your project over here? And I get pretty immediate answers, and everyone says, okay, just go and talk to this person or go and talk to that person. At a bigger firm, that might be a little harder, just because you might not have that familiarity with everyone.
Right.
You might just, have a couple contacts, and there's no problem with that at all. But especially for my firm, because we are more of a smaller firm, more of a boutique firm, I know everyone. I talk to everyone. I know all my staff, and I walk around the firm every day. So I see the faces, I recognize them, they recognize me. Right. So I would say, and I can't speak on any other firms, only because I don't know what that environment is, but to the extent that it's my firm, where everyone is completely comfortable, I would say, using that open door policy.
It's so funny that you would call it a boutique firm, because I always think that it's like this big, well-oiled machine. Like I always picture it as this big law firm, and so it's funny that it's so small, but you guys run it so well, and it's probably a huge benefit to your clients that you can get the answers that you need in such a timely manner. Because you want, as working in closings and development and all those things, you need answers right away. And if you're working with lawyers that can give you those answers, it's a huge benefit. Mm-hmm. You're not waiting a few days.
It's this common stereotype that the legal profession doesn't allow a lot of room for kind of work-life balance. Do you find that to be true? Is that something that you've had to deal with in your personal life, trying to balance work and family and friends and everything, or has it been something that's relatively easy to navigate?
I think I would be lying if I said it was easy.
Right.
And I don't want to give anyone the false impression. It is incredibly hard, just because at the outset you do spend a lot of time at work.
Right.
I do probably see the people I work with more than I see my family. And that's just because we have long days. Mm-hmm. And I think every lawyer will say that, right? Like your average day, probably 10 to 12, maybe more hours, depending on how busy you are. Mm-hmm. So when you're spending that much time in the office, it is difficult to strike a work-life balance. And along the way, I think you need to make decisions for yourself, whether that's a small decision or a big decision about, okay, well, how do I navigate my personal life? And how do I keep that from falling off the rails? And personally, it is hard. I have a husband and he's a lawyer too. So I guess it kind of helps that he understands he understands what the asks are in terms of hours, because he's got the same asks. Right. When he's in trial and he's busy, naturally, I don't see him as much, right? And when I'm busy, he doesn't see me as much. But there's that understanding there, and I'm fortunate that I do have a partner that is supportive. Yeah. But starting a family and questions like that, those are always a little harder, because it's okay, well, I have 24 hours in a day and about 12 hours of that, or maybe more, is dedicated to work. So then it becomes, okay, well, how do I navigate my weekends? What am I going to do? What am I going to prioritize? Right. So weekends to me are very precious, and those are the days that I try to not check my emails as much. Those are the days where I try to, maybe just tonight I'm going to go out to dinner. I'm going to turn off my email notifications, right? Mm-hmm. So small actions like that. Or it could be, I know people who have taken leaves from work because they need to find that rebalance. Right. And nobody wants to get to that point, but hopefully, things like that are their ways of resetting. Yeah. Or I know a lot of people do exercise, and that to them is work-life balance, right? Yeah. And not really my cup of tea, but I can appreciate it. So I think it's really a spectrum of what works for you and what works for your life, because it's hard for me to say, without having kids yet, this is how I spread my time. Like, will that change in the future? If the picture changes, I'm sure it would, right? Mm-hmm. I might have to, maybe instead of spending 12 hours of work, I spend 10. Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It almost sounds like something. Do you find it something you have to practice? Like, it's never perfect, figuring out the work life, like turning off the notifications, not turning off the notifications. Do you feel like this pull back to work sometimes and less balance, I guess? Yeah. I know this is completely my fault. No one is telling me I have to do it, but sometimes, when you have a file on your mind and you're thinking things through, it's naturally, okay, well, I thought of this. I hope I don't forget it. Yeah. Let me just send a quick email. It's harmless. Absolutely. And that could turn into an hour and a half. Who knows? I think you're preaching to the choir. Yeah. I think we all do that as well. Yeah. So I asked that question because I also sometimes struggle with that. The things you're supposed to do to create balance in your life, but sometimes it's almost like self-sabotage with those things. You just don't do them, and you default back to exactly that. We have this thing that we're working on, and I've got this idea, and I'm just going to spend 5 minutes putting something down, and before you know it, it's 11:30 at night. Yeah. And you've completely ignored all other aspects of your life, kind of thing. So yeah.
Have you found that by doing that, has it changed how the workload that you do, or the work effort or output? I'm not quite sure what the word is, but
I wouldn't say that it's changed the volume of work that I do, only because it has to get done, for lack of better words or nicer sounding words. But there are ways, I think, to deal with that, and you just every file is different, and I think we have to be, or at least I have to try and be pretty flexible about, okay, well, maybe I'll work more right now, and I'll try and get as much done as I possibly can, because it's hard for me to find time during the day when it's quiet and I can actually focus on drafting, or I can focus on something that requires a lot of my concentration and a lot of my attention. And I'll say, okay, well, maybe, I'll work till 9, I'll work till 10. I'll just get it done tonight so that when I come in, I've cleared out my urgent emails.
Yeah.
That's not something I have to worry about in the morning. And that makes me feel better about the next day, right? And I know a lot of people maybe have that same mindset, and then the next day, all the same stuff comes in. So you kind of barrel into the same routine. But I don't think that the workload ever changes. And, again, in times like this, it's always better to be busy than not. I like the comfort of knowing that there still is work to keep me busy, but it's something that I try to work on personally to say, okay, well, maybe I should go home and see my husband now. And I'm lucky that, I have clients that maybe have events after work, and that to me is a natural break because, okay, well, now I need to attend this event. So I shouldn't think about work. I shouldn't be thinking about this file. I should focus on this one event that I'm doing. And then I go home and I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty tired. I'm just going to sleep now.
Yeah. It'll all still be there in the morning.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want anybody to know about what you do or the mentorship, or I guess the student program that you have? Anything else that we can add?
I would say my note would be for anyone who is thinking about getting into a legal career or potentially real estate, having that focus there. It's pretty hard to not be dejected. I mean, I remember going through interviews and not getting the job, and that's not a great feeling.
Yeah.
And I think everyone deals with rejection in life, in one way, shape, or form, and it's very important, and I think it's a formative experience because it teaches you, okay, well, I can't have this opportunity. What about the next one? And I remember one of the things people used to say about, getting that articling position was you only need one. So it's a numbers game, and you have to work at it. You have to try hard, but I don't think you can give up immediately. And I think the profession itself is very tough. It's very demanding, but there are ways to make it work. There are people that make it work every day, whether that's in private practice or in-house or whatever that might be. And I'm hoping that it encourages the younger generation to not feel dejected, especially with the market now. And I know that that's something that they can't control, and they feel like I'm trying, but there's just no opportunity. And it is unfortunate, but I don't think you should let that drag you down, because there are ways to maybe look for opportunities, like how I got involved in the student recruitment program, right? Like if I had never shown my interest in that, maybe I wouldn't be doing it now. Or if I had joined, or, if I had decided, okay, well, I'll leave my legal career behind and I will just focus on getting a job that just focuses on student recruitment, my life would look really different. So I don't think you can underestimate, maybe the current connections that you have, maybe the current opportunities that you have in front of you that you don't feel like are real opportunities, but maybe those will translate into something, or I hope they do.
That's great. That's good advice.
A good message.
Try to end it on a positive note.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, that's a wrap. I think that's it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
All right. That's our show. Thank you so much for listening. You can hear us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or YouTube. We also have an Instagram account at therealto.podcast, as well as on LinkedIn. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Bye.